This week on Hip Hop Now podcast, Kendrick Lamar releases another single, Be Humble. Freddie Gibbs has a problem with Logic, and Run the Jewels talk about when it became time to pause on the solo projects.
But let's get right to the business.
Read these headlines.
This album must be gone. This album must be gone.
Classic albums are. Come to Hip Hop Podcast. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip hop, music, and culture right here on Death Star Radio. You can follow me on social media at Vegas World INC. That'd be Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I do that a little bit here and there. Also, I want to thank everybody who showed love and support for my 100th episode of Hip Hop Now podcast, and of course, big things are happening. And if you're wondering what you mean right here on Death Star Radio, well, DSR.FM is now the home of Hip Hop Now podcast. So not only can you download the podcast separately on Stitcher Radio or Podbean or Google Play or iTunes podcast, you can also check it out amongst a bunch of dope hip-hop music, uncensored hip-hop music at that, 24 hours a day on DSR.FM. Now, that's online. You know, if you're using a computer, if you're old school, it's good. You can pull out your laptop. But if you're a type of person where it's like, yo, I got a phone or an iPad or a tablet, how can I listen to this radio station along with your show? Well, they have an app, Death Star Radio on iOS. You can go to the App Store and download it, and then Death Star Radio on Android. So it doesn't matter. Now, if you got a BlackBerry or something like that, I don't know, man. I can't really do nothing for you. But please know that you can always get this podcast, whether it's streaming, listening to the radio station, or just downloading it. Thank you for the love. 100 episodes deep. It feels great. But let's get right into the business, though. Skyzoo has announced two projects for 2017, one being an album that's, actually is an 8-song EP called Peddler Themes that's going to be released in July, and then he's going to come back during the holiday season in December and release an album entitled In Celebration of Us. Skyzoo is the type of MC, for me personally, that I wasn't like out the gate like buying up his music or checking for his music. I slowly started to hear a song here and there and say, damn, that record's dope. Damn, that record's dope. And it wasn't until really, and I'm being real, you know, somewhat Barrel Brothers with him and Torre, you know, I was feeling both of them, but pause. But it got to the point when I heard Music for My Friends. If you never heard that Skyzoo album, it was one of my best albums of that year. I believe that was 2015, I think. 2014, 2015, I think. It might be 15. But, yo, that album was just dope, man. And it was the traditional sound of hip-hop you have come accustomed to for those real hip-hop fans that are listening to this. But also, it didn't sound old. And that's always been my pet peeve is a lot of rappers want to sustain that boom bap sound, but they wind up making records that sound like they came out in the 90s. And to me, that's not very effective for new listeners or people like me who are old school fans of hip hop who grew up during the early 90s and stuff like that. I don't say golden age because that's debatable. We're going to debate that one day. One of these podcasts is going to be about what's the true golden age of hip hop. But yeah, man, Skyzoo, he got two projects coming. I suggest you check them out when they drop. That dude just doesn't disappoint. He picks dope beats. He got dope rhymes. He got concepts. He's perfect. And there ain't no New York bias. It's just, if you love hip-hop and you love bars and beats and all those things, you know, Skyzoo, you can't go wrong. Actually, he released the album last year with Apollo Brown, another dope dude who does beats and rhymes. And they really keeping that tradition alive, man. So hopefully they one day get the recognition they deserve on a grander scale, because we're fighting this battle between, what's hip hop and what's not, and blah, 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 and what's on the radio. But you don't have those problems right here on DSR, Death Star Radio. You know what I'm saying? Rick Ross has no plans to put any respect on Birdman's name. Respect, excuse me. First of all, let me shout out Hip Hop DX, allhiphop.com, and a couple of sites where I get some of these stories from. Got to show the love. But if you don't know, Rick Ross put out an album called Rather You Than Me. I think it's pretty dope. You know what I'm saying? I love the beats, and he tends to talk about a lot of the same things. But so what? Not everybody's a lyrical master. You know what I'm saying? We know that, right? We know that much. But he did a song where he was kind of getting at Birdman for his treatment of Lil Wayne, and kind of disrespecting everything that Lil Wayne has done for him as an executive as far as being a successful artist. The name of the record on the Rick Ross album is called Idols Become Rivals. And he's not feeling Birdman's attitude. He's not feeling, the way he's treating Lil Wayne as far as business goes. And, it's one of those things where part of me does not care, honestly, because, business is business. So whether Birdman's in the wrong or there's a part of the contractual situation that Lil Wayne wants to overcome, but he can't because of what he signed. This is the record industry, man. And I think a lot of times we don't hold these standards to some of the faceless executives. Now, when I say faceless, I'm talking about the dudes you don't know, the dudes you don't see. See, Birdman, he was a rapper. He was, he was along that line of executives that, in some respects, kind of got in the way of their artists, like Puff Daddy or Suge Knight, you know what I'm saying? Or just were visible. And let me not say just get in the way, but visible. Like Jermaine Dupri, a visible executive. But at the end of the day, man, it's business, man. And people are going to do petty things. People are going to get emotional about it. And, I think Birdman looks at the fact that when you look at Cash Money, right, and you look at Young Money is what really, now I'm sure Birdman is tied into that as well, but it's another thing when it's your brand. You're trying to keep Cash Money alive, the brand you started, just like any other, like Rough Riders and Bad Boy and all these different labels. Well, Rockefeller's gone, but all these different labels are trying to keep that brand strong. And then if you start to separate what kept it going, because let's be real, right? When the Hot Boys came out, it was all about Cash Money and all of that. And we knew like Lil Wayne was special. We knew he was special in some regard. And he kind of showed that when the whole Cash Money bling bling era started to die down for them. And he released, even though he wasn't writing a lot of it, he released, Lil Wayne I'm talking about, released his Carter series. And that kind of brought, kept Cash Money going for years until this day. So now it feels like, the separation it needs to happen. And don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest advocate for Lil Wayne. He's hit or miss with me. Sometimes he could do something where I was like, yo, that was pretty dope. And then there are other times where I'm like, he doesn't even care, those bars in itself. Run the Jewels explains the moment solo projects stop being a priority. And I quote, this is what Killer Mike had to say. I realized right after we went on our first tour and opened for each other. I would open, L would come on, and he would come back as Run the Jewels. There was a group of kids there. I distinctly remember we were in Phoenix. So the crowd had to be separated. You got your LP/Company Flow, Def Jux fans. You got your Killer Mike, Grind Time DF fans. There was a group of kids that would be active during the show, but they were like, okay, all right. When we came back on as Run the Jewels, they were like, like we were two different dudes, but we were wearing the same goddamn black t-shirts. I love Run the Jewels. I love what they represent. They represent hip hop to the fullest, not because of their backgrounds, you know what I'm saying, but because of the fact that these dudes had a mutual connection musically. And it didn't represent their sounds as solo artists. It represented a new sound, you know what I'm saying? And again, the beats aren't the newest ever, but for hip hop, it created a sound that was distinctly theirs. And I like when I first heard the first Run the Jewels project, I remember, and I always say this on the podcast, soundcloud.com/hiphoppolitic, with a hop in the politics, share the P. But I always say this. Jay-Z's Magna Carta Holy Grail was released, right? And I remember reading about what they wanted to capture sonically with that album, right? And I think it was done on some level. Even though that album I only like half of it. Because once it gets towards the end, it kind of falls off a cliff for me, beat-wise and content-wise. But I didn't really hear the sound, you know, this futuristic, you know, almost dubstep, almost, you know, the beat, like futuristic sounding beats almost, you know what I'm saying? Like stepping out of what was yesterday and stepping in today, you know. But if that make any sense. But the thing is when I heard Run the Jewels, when that dropped, and again, it wasn't something I was checking for. It was just one of those things that, you know, when you surf the internet and you on your social media, you know, timelines, and you start to see like certain people, not a lot of people, you start seeing certain people saying, yo, this is Run the Jewels, it's crazy. I go to a tech blog, you know, this blog I like to read all the time. They're talking about the album. And I'm like, damn, now if I'm on a hip hop site and I see it, and now I'm on a tech blog and I see them talk about Run the Jewels, I need to listen. And when I first heard it, I was like, yo, this is exactly the sound that Pharrell and Jay-Z and everybody else that was involved with that Magna Carta album was trying to explain. Like, this is what we want sonically. But here you have LP and Killer Mike, and they crushed it. They own it. To be honest, they own it. Like, literally, like they're on their third album, which isn't as strong as the first two, but I think it fits in well with those two. And I feel like that's all I want to hear from them. I don't really want them to stray from that unless it's an extension of that sound. If it's an extension of that, you know, that rapid beats and sonic forces and sound. I know, man, it sounded real futuristic and sci-fi-ish, but it just sounds dope. You know what I'm saying? And they're one of the crews and the groups that I look forward to anytime they drop an album. You know what I'm saying? Everything about it, even the covers are dope. Run the Jewels, you know what I'm saying? One dude's holding the fingers of a gun, the other one's holding his hand out like he's holding a chain. Run the Jewels. It's just dope. So I can see how they would feel like, yo, the solo situation is not what people want. Because honestly, I'd be lying if I said, yo, I've been checking for Killer Mike. He just so happened to be in the group. Nah, not at all. I forgot Killer Mike was even around like that. I thought he had stopped writing, or maybe he was ghostwriting for somebody. Same thing with LP. I wasn't the biggest Company Flow fan. And when I look, it's like these two come together so perfectly. You know what I'm saying? With the rhymes, with the beats, with the energy. They're the type of group that you want to follow. So if you haven't heard any of the Run the Jewels album, shed any expectations and just listen to how it sounds sonically, and listen to, this just sounds like an advertisement, like I work for them. But this is just a fan testifying, to be honest. I'm testifying as a fan. Listen to the music, listen to the lyrics. They're not always rapidy rap. You know what rapidy rap is. You know, it's not bar heaven. It can be that for some people. But it's everything. It's lyrical. It's concepts. You know what I'm saying? It's political. It's so many dope pieces to what creates the Run the Jewels frenzy that every time I listen to, I love it. It is perfect for when you're in the gym. You need to zone out, but you need that energy level to be up a little bit, but you don't want it just to be loud nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Then you might want to do, Run the Jewels, or you could do MOP, but then you might hurt yourself. Because I was getting busy with the weights with the MOP, and it's not good, man. I'm on a diet. I'm losing it. So, Freddie Gibbs blasts Logic for jocking his album art and trailer. Now, if you don't know, Logic has an album coming out, and he put out like a teaser trailer, and I believe he also put something together where he showed off his promotional video for his album, right? And I'm looking at it right now, and I'm seeing what he's talking about. All right, so let me give you a description. This is all on Instagram. Freddie Gibbs put out a promotional video for his album that feels somewhat like The Last Supper, but it has a lot of people in it, and then it has this robot in the middle, right? And I think the album's being released now, I believe. I think it's out today. Well, Logic put out something recently that's very similar with what looks like the same exact robot. Oh, this is crazy. The same exact robot. But let's get into what Freddie Gibbs had to say. This is what he said on Instagram. Dear @Logic301. That's Logic's handle on Instagram. I hope you purchased my album on Friday due to the fact that you just blatantly jocked my shit. Blessings. Wow. Let me see if Logic had anything to say about it. Well, let's see what Freddie, let me see if he had some more to say. Last summer, I got a call from Bob. That's Logic. I answer the phone. Dude, everything okay? It's 3 a.m. He replies, bro, I'm in Paris. I'm at the Louvre or whatever you call it. I know what the next album cover is going to be. The Wedding at Cana by whatever, basically the artwork. Wow. So let's see. Let's see if Logic had, oh, wow. Okay. I see what's going on. Oh, shit. Wow. So now this is the thing. Logic's album is out in May 5th. And on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, shout out. Freddie Gibbs' album is out March 31st. But it looks like it's exactly the same thing. This painting that Logic is talking about is the same painting that's being depicted in Freddie Gibbs's, let's see, in Freddie Gibbs's, I guess this is the album cover, because I've seen 2 different album covers. But his just has the robot in it. Whereas Logic is saying the painting is going to be his album cover or something similar to it, and he used the robot as the promotional tool for the video. Let me holler at y'all about Logic after going through all of that. Well, let's talk about Freddie Gibbs real quick. Freddie Gibbs is a dope MC. I believe he's from Tennessee. He's really nice. His last album, the name escapes me, but that means nothing. I just haven't listened to it in a while. I think it's Shadow of a Doubt. I believe that's it. That was one of my best of the year. I believe it was the same exact year as the Sky Zoo album I was talking about. To me, in another era, people would be calling it a classic. This dude is extremely versatile when it comes to rhyming. You want trap, he could do that. You want bars, he could do that. You want boom bap, he can do that. He can do all of it. And on that album, he literally did it. And that was for me at least, that was the last solo album that I really checked for from him. Because I think he did side projects. You know how these dudes do. They do mixtapes and all types of stuff. And after a while, it kind of gets oversaturated. So I kind of latch on to what I really mess with, and then I keep it there. But this is the thing, right, with Logic that I don't like, right? when I was first introduced to Logic, I saw a lot of hype about his mixtape, the whole Rat Pack thing and the Frank Sinatra situation. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm hearing a lot about him. Let me check him out. He must be dope. And I remember the first time I heard him, I was like, damn, this dude sounds a lot like J. Cole. And I'm not just talking about someone who can't help something where it's a voice situation. Because when you hear Logic in an interview and you hear J. Cole in an interview, they don't sound like the same person at all. And J. Cole tends to rhyme like he talks, so you could tell it's him. So I was like, okay, well, maybe that's just a single from Logic, and I get it. A lot of these record companies tend to want you to basically bite off of someone else so that people can be attracted to your music as well, instead of you living off of who you are and what you create. And then I decided to listen to an album, and I went through an album and all these critically acclaimed albums that these sites be pushing. I started to feel like it was unwarranted. You know why? Because not once did I listen to a record and felt like I knew who Logic was, because on one record he's kind of flowing like J. Cole on a lot of records. Then there's a little bit of a Kendrick vibe to certain records I heard, as far as, techniques in your flow. And then there was somewhat of a Drake kind of vibe also. And I just started thinking, like, this can't be what I think it is, until I watched a video with him, an interview, and, he talked about, his some of his favorite rappers, and he mentioned some of those dudes. And this is where he probably needed to learn this one fundamental lesson that I don't think it's taught today. And it's really about when you're an MC, right? And you create your own music, you can never be so much into another artist that you start writing like them. You start emulating them. And he may not even recognize that he's doing that. He may just look at it as, well, these are my lines. I came up with these lines and these songs and these concepts. But if they sound like J. Cole did it, or Kendrick did it, or Drake did it, then do you really have an identity? So to look at this situation with Freddie Gibbs, I can't necessarily say, because also in this article, and I need to point out, in the favor of Logic, is the fact that they're trying to say that he came up with the idea a long time ago for his covers. Now, I don't think he voiced those ideas, or maybe he did, who knows? But Freddie Gibbs has a project that's coming out right now that contains everything he's basically announced about his project. So I don't know if it's a great minds think alike situation, or it's another case of this dude just biting and being influenced by what others do and letting that inform what he does. Because honestly, it's, in regards to me, people may feel differently. You may feel differently. Leave your comments in the comment section. But it looks like a dude who keeps continuing to look at what everybody else is doing and saying, yo, that's pretty dope. I'll do that. But it's kind of like, when, to give you some old school, like, when Raekwon and them was like, they took Nas' cover, they didn't give him a chance to shine on his own stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I think what Logic should do, change your cover. It's not like, if the music isn't great on either of those albums, it doesn't matter what the cover is, to be honest. Change your cover. Change it to something else that still represents the title of your music or your album. Change it. What's the problem with that? So I don't know. You tell me in the comment section. NWA's Straight Outta Compton has been selected for the Library of Congress. I cannot believe I just read that. It's pretty dope. If you don't know, that's better than an award. That's better than an award. You know why? Because that means 2,000 years from now, when rap is really dead, or hip hop's really dead, somebody will be able to go into the future. They will take their, flying car, go into the futuristic Library of Congress and hit play on Straight Outta Compton. with everything that's on that album. F the Police, Dope Man, everything that's on there, people will be able to go in there and say, wow, these dudes are really angry. They have attitude. But that's really dope. You know what I'm saying? Straight Outta Compton. It's not just a movie. Yo, listen to that. Have context. If you're a young dude, listen to that album. Have some context about it. Go watch the movie. That gives you enough context. I thought it was very good. But if not, just understand the time and understand why they were saying what they were saying. They wasn't saying it to be cool. They were saying it because it was real. You know what I'm saying? And it was their reality. And lastly, we're going to end off with this real quick. So, Kendrick Lamar is coming, right? He's coming out with a new album, but he released last week or whatever, because I didn't get to talk about it on the podcast, but he released Heart Part 4, which was a very aggressive record on some hip-hop stuff, basically talking about Lil Sean and Drake in some respects. And I thought it was pretty dope. You know, I also did on the B-Roll Network on YouTube, subscribe today. I did a video with me playing, a little NBA 2K7 and talking about it and my whole feelings on that. So you can check that out. But recently as last night, I'm recording this on a Friday, he released a new song in a video, which, safe to say, is the single for this upcoming album. The name of the song is Humble. I watched the video, and I just want to say this real quick. When it comes to Kendrick Lamar, man, he should make every hip-hop fan happy or proud. I can understand if some people don't like the way he does certain things, because I know some people can't get over maybe the voice or the way he flows. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes. But you got to listen to the lyrics. You got to look at these videos and his visual images in these videos and understand that, okay, To Pimp a Butterfly, the lyrics really were centered around one theme of, basically empowering black men to cut to the chase. And it was a very cultural, rich album with jazz musicians and all types of stuff. This feels more like Good Kid, Mad City. This record, Humble, feels more like Good Kid, Mad City when you think about the lyrics. But the video feels like To Pimp a Butterfly. So is he going to take the best of both worlds and combine them for one album? I could see him doing that, because why not? You know what I'm saying? You pull both fan bases into this one project. So we'll see how the album is. One thing I'll say about Kendrick when it comes to that lead single, it never blows me away. It never I'm doing a lot of pausing today. But it is never a record where I'm like, yo, it's crazy, I can't wait for the album. With Kendrick, this is what you have to do when he releases his first single. Understand that it's best heard within the flow of the album. That's just the way he do it. You might not even like this record at all. You might be like, it's weak, it's garbage, he fell off. Then the album come out and you hear this record, as track number 7 after hearing a number of records, and you say, I kind of like this record. Because I know that was the situation for me with Swimming Pools. I kind of liked it. I liked it even more once the album was out. And the same thing with I kind of liked it. But then when I heard it in the context of the album, I was like, I like it even more now. So I feel the same way about Humble. I kind of like it, but when the album comes out, I'll probably like it even more. So it's one of those things where, sometimes in hip hop, you can't just take records off of face value. You really got to dig deeper into the experience. And that's what hip hop is about, right? Right? That's what it's about. That's going to do it for me for this week. You can follow me on social media at Vegas World INC. If you like Facebook, go to the Facebook page and hit that like button, facebook.com/hiphop right now. This podcast is a production of Vegas World INC, meaning just me, but also appears on DSR.FM or Death Star Radio on your iOS or Android device. Download the app today. Show support. We getting it out here, player. Yep, for real. For real, we getting it. This is where you come for that real hip hop. Also, this podcast is available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Podbean, TuneIn, and SoundCloud.com/hiphoppolitic, where the hop and the politics share the P. Subscribe to the B-Roll Network on YouTube. I got a lot of stuff to say, don't I? on YouTube today for more content. And until next week, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.
Drop it on the random.